We're at a critical point within the crypto markets with a little bit of conflicting data between what the altcoin sector is showing us firstly and what Bitcoin is showing us secondly, two showing that they're probably going to move in opposite directions. I'll show you what that means for you and your altcoins in today's show. We'll have a look at a couple of trade opportunities as well. Smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel. All right, let's get straight into it. If you have a look over here at Banter Bubbles on the hourly, you are starting to see some of the altcoins move up really nicely. We had a little bit of a flush yesterday, and a lot of this has got to do with that HyperLiquid whale, which I believe that they possibly going to try and liquidate. I'll show you the levels over there. And there is some conflicting data, right? While we're seeing potential signs of weakness on Bitcoin, we have certain things like Ethereum, which we've been eyeballing for months now and outlining that as a long trade opportunity. First from 1,500, we took profits at 1,800. We re-longed at 1,700 with a target in mind of $3,300, and we're starting to see that trade actually play out. So we'll talk about what it means for Ethereum if you actually do start to see Bitcoin breaking down. We'll have a look at the stock markets as well, and also a couple of things in terms of the meme coin sector. So stay tuned until the very end. This is currently our daily view over here on the Banter Bubbles. Let's also quickly review what's happening in the stock market. Most of the stocks are up for the week, right? So one of the things that we're seeing, which is potentially fireworks situation, is the breakdown of Bitcoin dominance, right? We said yesterday we need a bit more information to unfold, and that's still the case right now and still relevant. We're probably only going to find out really towards the end of the week, maybe even next week, what's happening in the altcoin sector. But as it currently stands, you can see over here on your weekly MACD, you're about to get a bearish cross towards the downside, and the histogram's about to cross the zero line and turn red for the first time in a really long time. The last time that we had that, you'll remember, this is ultimately where the Bitcoin dominance dropped essentially about 11%. And that 11% occurred over that November-December period, which did spark fireworks for the altcoin sector, right? That's where we started to see some massive upside moves. And as it currently stands, if you look at the price action over here on the full chart history, well, this has been a major pivot level. And of course, Bitcoin dominance has absolutely blasted for this entire cycle, 67% with really no real pullbacks, right? That was kind of the main pullback that we got. So in effect, there hasn't been any kind of an alt season whatsoever. Remember, the real alt seasons occur with this type of a drop, right? And everyone's trying to time where that drop could come from, right? If you saw a move down like that, that's going to be absolutely huge for the altcoin sector. But there are some things that you need to look at, and there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to what's going on in the market, right? FTX is going to distribute $5 billion to creditors in 2 days' time. That's coming in for the end of the month. That's likely to affect some of the psychology within the market, some of the optimism within the market, and possibly even the monthly close. So I think it's high time to pay attention leading into the monthly close. There's just literally, I think, 2 days left to go. How many days have we got in this month? We have, till the 31st. So until Saturday, all you have to do is sit tight, focus for 72 hours. And if this does actually flow into the crypto markets, that could spike the altcoin sector alongside the breakdown in the Bitcoin dominance. Not only that, but we also have Gamestop, right? As 𝗪𝗔 of Binance says over here, very simple strategy. Gamestop has purchased 4,710 Bitcoin. So a lot of people are starting to follow this MicroStrategy playbook, and you're seeing more and more companies come out doing exactly the same thing, adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet. Now, I don't think this ends well towards the end of the cycle, but at least for now, this may be exactly what we need to bring that retail attention in, which is really lacked within this cycle. And remember, there's certain metrics that any of you can utilize to determine what the retail interest is like, right? The first free way that you can do that is you can just simply go onto Google Trends and type in, buy Bitcoin, buy altcoins, buy Ethereum, keywords like that, and you'll see on the Google Trends how flat it's been. So these are the kind of things that could bring the floodgates in for the masses. YouTube views are still very low. That's something that we've looked at previously. Tweet followings in terms of the KOLs or influencers within the crypto space also remain very low. Very few new followers coming into the market, showing that it's really just been a washing machine, a rotational game. So these are good signs to usher in that final phase of the bull run. If you start to see things like this, FTX distributing, I mean, how ironic would it be, right? FTX collapses, marking the exact bottom, and then they start to distribute pretty much near the top of the cycle, I mean, you just can't win with them, right? And then, of course, we also have the HyperLiquid whale, which I'm tracking right over here. I mean, this is absolutely an unbelievable story. You guys know it, almost $83 million worth of profit as of just a couple of days ago, right on the 23rd of May, just a week ago. So he was already up $83 million. Now, subsequently given up every single one of those profits, unfortunately for him. And actually just now he was sitting at $3 million in a loss off of the initial equity. I think that he has about $14-15 million in this original position with 40x leverage, right? So it's about a $500 million position size, as you can see up there, 4,600 Bitcoin long. Isn't that similar to what GameStop bought, right? 4,600, they bought 4,700. So he's literally long on GameStop's entire purchase. Remember with GameStop as well, by the way, they have a lot more extra money which they could still deploy. So that can really help to drive things up. So we'll see, where is his liquidation price, right? All of you should mark this off on your chart. It's at 106,313, assuming he doesn't make any adjustments over here. He's already paid $500,000 in funding just to keep that position open. Remember, funding is borrowing the exchange's money, right? They borrowing your money to keep the position open, and every 8 hours the funding rate resets, and we haven't even had high funding, and that's a lot of money to be paying in funding, right? So I definitely hope that he wins. I hope that he wins. I hope that his position doesn't get liquidated and moves up. But for those of you that have other thoughts, well, you can vote over here, right? James Wynn, HyperLiquid whale, liquidation price is at 106,311. Vote in the poll section. What happens next, right? Is he going to get liquidated and then we're going to pump? That's what most of you seem to think. Liquidated and we keep dumping, or no liquidation, we're just going to pump and he's going to get a free ride to Valhalla, reclaiming his $83 million, right? While you go vote there, please do also smash the like button over here on YouTube. It helps to get the show content out there, right? Cool. Let's continue. So we'll keep an eye on that. I voted the first one over there. So I believe that if he does get liquidated over there, it probably will mark a major bottom. He might get a little bit of a cascade towards the downside, triggering a whole bunch of other stop losses and things like that. But then I do think that you probably get you a little bit of a bounce from there. That will be a major support zone, at least for a short-term bounce, right? Liquidation levels remain relatively low. What this tells us is that there is probably a big move that's going to be coming very, very, very soon. You just need to use a little bit of patience, and hopefully we get the short squeeze, because of course I'm also long on the market just like the rest of you, right? 51% shorts right now versus 48.9% on the long side, showing a slight discrepancy over there. Maybe the shorts get a bit of a payday if this guy gets liquidated, and then immediately they start to flip long. At the end of the day, one of the predominant things that we've been using to drive our bias was covered in yesterday's show, and it had been well thought out and planned. And I see today it actually worked out really, really nicely. If you look at yesterday's YouTube video over here, this is where we covered the USDT dominance caught within this parallel channel, and said I wouldn't be surprised if you get a little bit of a move towards the upside, exactly like that, right? Creating a bit of a fake out scenario, and then you drop it back inside and allow people to begin to chase, right? Now you want to gain acceptance. This is exactly what happened. Here's your real chart, and exactly as we predicted over there, you got the spike out, creating the final bear trap scenario over there, shaking people out of their positions. It did get a little bit scary. I'm not going to lie. I really didn't want to see it take out 4.6%, and it did temporarily, but very soon it reversed, right? And now it's broken back inside. Hopefully this is now your next lower high, and you really start to mark down aggressively towards the yearly open. This will drive massive inflows, which maybe lines up with that FTX $5 billion, right? Which is coming out in just a couple of days' time. Maybe these degens go straight back to the casino like their friend James Wynn, and absolutely whack that back into the market over there, creating the drop in the USDT dominance over here. And ultimately that means up for the rest of our coins, right? But it's an interesting place, right? Because we do have the stock market, which looks really strong. We spoke about the SR flip coming into the key level over here, holding with a perfect candle into that 200-day moving average, bouncing out of there. And now it's only got 2.85% to go before testing the all-time highs once again. And following multiple tests into that, there's a good chance that it breaks through. And if you do see this breakthrough, I mean, you've essentially completed a V-shaped recovery, and you may be going in for a markup phase higher. But this is the but, right? You're seeing a little bit of a different picture when it comes to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is running out of momentum. I'm not going to lie, guys. Bitcoin is running out of momentum. I don't know where the momentum is going to come from, but you need some new form of energy to drive prices higher for Bitcoin to explode into new all-time highs. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm bearish on the rest of things. Remember, we've just spoken about it over here, the potential for a breakdown on Bitcoin dominance over here. Let's go on to, for example, the 12-hourly chart, just to give you a little bit of perspective. Is this the lower high, right? After creating for the first time in a long time a swing low, you have your highs over there, swing low into a lower high rejection. If you get follow through of that, that's going to be absolutely magnificent for the altcoins. But Bitcoin per se is running out of energy because you've had already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is now working on the 8th green week in a row. This week closes green. That's the 8th week. We've very rarely seen anything more than that. Most of the time, it's around 6 to 7 green weeks in a row. We've already completed the 7. We're working on the 8th week. And if it gets to 9, you know it, 𝗏𝗪𝗏, famous trader from back in the 90s within the stock market who coined the 𝗏𝗪𝗏 9 sequential, the TD sequential 9 count, would suggest trend exhaustion around that 9th candle where you're looking for a little bit of a pullback. So, of course, Bitcoin is due for either a pullback or at the very least a bit of a consolidation and a sideways price action move over there. And you can literally see it in the RSI. The RSI is starting to roll over even on the weekly scale over here, which just means energy is being removed from the market. It's ultimately you need some kind of a catalyst, right? So that's one thing to look out for. The other thing is you're now starting to close multiple candles below the upsloping trend line, which we always said was a bit of a warning sign. So although we have the long and the short trade over here, we haven't actually taken the short trade, right? We have the long trade, which is in marginal profits. The trade was initially taken over here. Of course, we've taken many long trades before this. Every week we look for new opportunities. This was the latest opportunity for those who had been late to the party, and even still, you're up 2.21%, right? So pay attention to these various different levels, because yesterday I said to you that if you take out Sunday low, and you came very, very, very close to doing that. He had Sunday low, right? If you took out Sunday low, then we said that would trigger the bearish trade where you're looking for continuation down, a little bit of a deeper pullback over there, and you can actually activate a short trade simply as a hedge. Not because you're bearish and you think the whole market is going to zero right now and it's completely the end of the bull run and there's no alt season. Not saying any of that. We're just saying simply as a hedge, an insurance plan against all of your other long trades, you could look to take some of the hedge short positions. Now, what I would say around that is you could probably already start to take this short trade, right? So instead of waiting for the confirmation, and the simple reason that I say that is based on the various things that we're seeing, like the momentum rolling over, and I'm going to show you a couple of other reasons why as well. I think that it makes sense for those of you who are savvy enough to have 2 trades at the same time, 1 long, 1 short. Remember, the idea is that you get positioned into both trades and eliminate the risk on both of them as quick as possible by reducing or removing your stop loss over there, moving the stop loss, into break even, right? That would be the what you consider eliminating the risk from the trade, right? Theoretically, you could begin to enter over here as opposed to waiting to take out the Sunday low, and I'm going to show you why in just a minute. It's got to do with the Wyckoff distribution, right? So your long trade is already paying you dividends over here. That means you'll take a very, very, very small loss if price does actually move up and take you out of this trade, right? So stop loss would be around this all-time high region. Okay. And the reason that I say that is this. Similar to the weekly time frame where momentum is starting to roll over, you're seeing exactly the same thing on the daily. Remember, the low time frames will turn before the high time frames turn. And if you do look at the daily over here, this RSI is beginning to roll over. And in fact, in order for bulls to retain control of this, at least this move over here, you would need to see price getting above the yellow line, which is 110,292. Failure to do that would mean that you're inevitably going to print bearish divergences, which ultimately are likely to play out over the next couple of days to weeks in the form of a pullback, right? Now, again, a pullback is just a pullback. It's not the end of the world. You do have some key support levels coming in over here. Firstly, at about $102,000. You have another one coming in over here around this order block level that led to the big breakout, and that's going to be at about $98,000. And that's a nice confluence zone because it does also line up with those EMAs and MAs, which are currently rising and going to act as additional support, right? Perfect, sensible area. Not only that, if you focus on your trading ranges and you say this is your range low, this is your range quarterly, 25% of the way through the range, this is your 50% level or halfway through the range, so midpoint, and this is your other range quarterly, 75% of the way through, and then that's your range high. Well, that all lines up with the range quarterly as a first sensible area for a bounce, right? Now, the reason that we're saying all of this is, of course, because you are closing multiple candles below that line. You've opened one, and closed it outside of that upsloping trend line, and now you're doing the second candle. By the third candle, you're probably going to start to break down, and if that does happen, we'll probably know our answer as soon as this week. But keep in mind, that's not necessarily bearish for the altcoins, because maybe some of that money is flowing out of Bitcoin into the altcoin sector, which is why I maintain some of my long trades on things like Ethereum, which I'll show you in just a minute, right? Now, building onto that idea, right, of a potential spike above the top of the trading range. Here's your trading range, right? Remember, you get Wyckoff accumulation and Wyckoff distribution schematics. And sometimes you get another upthrust, a final upthrust over the top side of the trading range. Here's your range high. And if you break back into that trading range, which effectively is what we've done over here, that's considered a swing failure pattern, also known as an upthrust after distribution, right? A final upthrust after distribution. You break back in the trading range and things can get bad, right? Again, we're just taking it one step at a time, expecting a big bounce from around that 100K level. But theoretically, if that does meet into a lower high, you know, you could run it all the way back down. That's a possibility, right? The reason that I tell you this now is because I don't want to tell you this when price is over here and you've already drawn down by 20%. And now I'm saying, okay, cool, well, things might actually come over here over time. Remember, trading is working out probabilities and looking at the market from multiple different scenarios and then trying to work out what is the best opportunity on the day, right? So what is the Wyckoff distribution, right? This is the Wyckoff distribution. Price marks up, ranges over there, ranges, and then you get the upthrust after distribution in phase C. Now, don't only use the image, but look at actually the description of what it says. And what does it say? Well, if we are in phase C and we actually break back into the range, which is what we're effectively doing, what does this mean? Phase C, a key turning point where the market tests the remaining demand. USDT.D, which stands for the upthrust after the distribution, which is a false breakout, a fake out, right? Some of you call that a fake out, a false breakout to the upside, trapping buyers before the market begins its downtrend. The test following the USDT.D checks the demand at the high price level, and it often occurs on low volume, suggesting the absence of strong demand, right? The absence of strong demand. So we wouldn't have completed the back test there on the low volume, but you can already study the volume and ask yourself, what is the volume doing, right? And overall, yes, we got a nice little move up over here with decent volume, but the volume has relatively been lower compared to everything else that we've seen over here, right? Look at all these volumes here. Volume lower, volume lower, volume lower. Yes, we got one little higher spike up there, but overall the volume recently is downtrending. So you need to see some clear things coming up into play over here, right? Let's just quickly address the 20-second, bro. Sounds like an AI voice. Let's just see. I think I might have. There we go. Let's just quickly run that for you,
brother. What's that? What's that, brother?
Okay, no AI voices over here. This is purely a live show, which is why it would be really helpful if you guys smash the like button, because it gets the show content out there when we are live streaming. Remember, YouTube actually punishes live streaming, right? It's definitely much more geared towards pre-recorded videos, but I want to bring you this stuff live in the moment as it's happening, right? So you can see that there's no, false analysis and retakes over here. Okay, lining that up with the volume, right? So these are potential risks. Again, guys, not here to scare anyone. Potential risks. You always consider your worst case scenario when you're actually putting real money on the table. Unless you want to lose all your money, right? You consider the worst case scenario. That's the worst case scenario. Break back into the trading range, and ultimately on low volume, there could be a Wyckoff distribution in play, right? In terms of the daily exchange volume, this is still holding up. That's a good sign. We want to see this tick up higher. That can negate that signal, right? So to eliminate this phase C signal, we need to see price hold up and still defend that Sunday low. I mean, you can pretty much say instead of Sunday's low, you can now just look to yesterday's low. If you take out yesterday's low, you're going to take out Sunday's low, and then you're going to liquidate poor James Wayne, and that's it, right? James Wynn, not Wayne, James Wynn over here. Okay, cool. Let's continue. So that's what we're waiting for over there. There is liquidity stacked both above and below. At the moment, if we look at the deltas, positive on ETH, negative on basically everything else, which is why I said theoretically you could still see a little bit of a short squeeze, right? In theory. Okay, I'm going to skip past this. Let's not waste time. ETH BTC does look good, right? It's still holding up. If you can get another strong candle close here today, full-bodied candle, you're effectively going to be coming into the breakout area, right? Get above that white line, 0.02575883. That means you're creating your second higher low. So you've got your low, higher high for the first time in a long time, higher low in the making. By breaking above that, not only do you print a higher high, you confirm the very first high low. That's how early it is, right? That's what I want to show you. That's how early it is. If you think that you're too late to make money in the altcoin sector, there's literally been nothing. Let's just remind you over here, what does Altseason actually look like, right? What does Altseason actually look like? And we'll go on to the weekly time frame for that. Altseason looks like this, right? Altseason looks like that. That's what Altseason looks like. So if you thought you missed Altseason, you know, maybe this still runs up all the way to the top of the range, and then you only do that. You haven't missed Altseason. For that to happen, we need to see consecutive high highs and high lows on the ETH BTC chart, and this is only the first one, right? So very, very, very early in hindsight, right? If we look at ETH dominance, this is pretty interesting, right? If you look at ETH dominance over there, let's just close that up. Let's remove the total cap over here. Let's remove the ETH cap just to line up really, really nicely. Well, you can see a beautiful key range low that price has come into, and it's reacted. Now, it might put in a bit of a pullback at some point and then another high low. But essentially, this is our first time that we're seeing a possibility of that reversing. And if ETH dominance is going up, it's very similar to the BTC dominance play, right? When BTC dominance was rising, the best thing since sliced bread was just to buy and hold Bitcoin. Nothing in the whole world was better than Bitcoin, right? If ETH dominance is going up, it's going to be the same story. There's no need to necessarily try and pick out a needle in a haystack to find the best performing altcoins. Although we do have history and we can see that there are certain ones that do very, very well as what we label higher beta plays against ETH. It means that they move much quicker. If ETH moves up 1%, these things move up 3, 4, 5, or even 10% for every percentage upside move in Ethereum, right? But for now, your main job is to figure out, is ETH going to move up or not? If you can get that answer right, then you can start to pile more risk onto the table, but with caution, because we know that we in the end phases of the cycle, at least 70 to 75% of the way through, right? So ETH is looking good. This is what we're looking at, right? We're looking at a move up over here on ETH. I spoke about this yesterday. Test 1. Test 2, test 3, and we said usually the fourth test is what leads to a breakout. You have had a breakout, right? You broke out of the triangle over there. Ascending triangles have measured moves. That's going to, from the point of when I mentioned this yesterday, there was a 26% move towards the upside. From current price action over here, it's still about a 20% move, which is very, very, very substantial, right? So you're chopping about over here. You might be shaking out the final players. At the end of the day, we're looking for a worst case scenario for a move back down into the bottom of the triangle. I don't know if we're going to get it. We never know, guys. We have to take things as they come. Maybe this is going to be a shakeout over here for the breakout buyers, and you do actually come all the way down. If that has happened, then you're going in for the fifth test, which inevitably is going to catapult prices up to about 3,300. That's going to be looking really good for ETH. So what I'd be viewing on ETH is this, right? Maybe we should have a look on some of the low time frames. I'm kind of just watching this over here. Let's just line that up. Where have I got my fibs marked from? Let's just quickly get everything in line here. Okay, so Fibonacci tool from the low to the high, right? So firstly, 50% level, which has already been tested, is one area of interest. So you theoretically want to see that 2,700 hold. If not, you might get a perfect throwback into the prior resistance, flipped into demand, which would be the pink box. And just above that is your golden pocket, right? So if that fails, you might see something like that. If that happens and you print a high low, that's your next opportunity to get in. Long over there, tight stop loss below. So that's your long point. Stop loss goes over here. And then you can target up to 3,300, right? So right now, we're still grinding along. We're still waiting. We're still holding this position. For any of you that do want to take that trade, of course, you can have a look over here on Bybit. I'm watching actively. I'm long on spot, right? I'm long on spot. But I'm looking to possibly use the inverse perpetual contract, which is what I'm on over here, to margin long some of the ETH, right? To essentially use a little bit of leverage on the position. So that's one way that you can upsize your gains as long as you know what you're doing and you understand the risks, right? Price has essentially come all the way back here into this demand zone on the very low time frames. I'm on the 5-minute chart. So as of right now, we really want to see this area hold, right? We want to see this area hold. I'm going to wait a little bit for this low time frame downtrend to break. If this begins to break, I might start to open up some margin long positions. For those of you that want to follow along, if you do want to do the same thing, use the link in the description below to Bybit. There it is. You're getting a guaranteed $50 when you sign up and an additional up to $30,000, right? For signing up to Bybit. I do believe it's probably the best exchange in the whole world, right? So very, very, very good exchange. The exchange is not trading against you over here. They are what's labeled as an A book, right? And you get an A book and a B book. An A book means that the exchange is using external market makers, which means they're not trying to hunt your stop losses or anything like that. So cool. We're waiting for that. Very, very, very close. That could happen, super soon. Let's quickly see just on the hourly time frame. Have a look over here. I just want to line a couple of things up. Let's just see. Okay, your money flow is still rising over there, so that's decent. It's just a little bit of chop after the first move. 30 minutes, money flow is still rising over there. Just a bit of a reset in the momentum oscillators. And yeah, hopefully all of that holds with the 50 EMA, right? So hourly also, or 5-minute, excuse me, also need to get back above that 50 EMA, which is the red line over there. So we'll continue to wait for that. So that is Bybit, right? Now, there are higher beta plays, right? I'm always looking for higher beta plays. We've spoken about a whole lot of them before. We saw during that November time period where previously is where we had that small drop in the Bitcoin dominance, as mentioned over here. That was the only, little bit. And look how small that is. Just that little drop over there. That's what elicited some major moves in the altcoin sector, right? Big, big, big gainers. So that we're deep in the meme sector, right? We're looking at things like 𝗵𝗵𝗏 as a high beta play against ETH. That's one. We looked at the whole boys club, Andy, Brett, Landwolf. Those were some of them. Then we looked to the Solana memes as well, right? Those performed very, very, very well. The question is, when the market resurrects and we get a drop in Bitcoin dominance, will the meme sector pop off again? And specifically, will it occur within Solana, right? Because we know it's much easier and cheaper to trade on Phantom, the Phantom wallet, through Solana than what it is on ETH. Okay, so if ETH moves, I think that could be the signal to drop the Bitcoin dominance. And then we might see things like Solana run again as well. And that should create a run. So some of the coins that I'm looking at, you guys know I have Goku, right? That's one of them. Goku is one of my biggest. I would say that's probably it's probably on par with the next one I'm about to show you. One of my biggest meme coin positions on Solana. I'm still holding all of my tokens, right? The other one that I'm looking at, and this is purely just because of the backing that they have, the credibility of what they've done before, taking two coins, one to 750 million, and the other one just over $1 billion market cap from very, very low market cap. And that I'm talking about is Fog and Popcat, right? We know those did super, super well. Now, the other one, which I have reason to believe is the same team, is 𝗧𝗪𝗔𝗍𝗪𝗔, right? So 𝗧𝗪𝗔𝗍𝗪𝗪𝗔, big move up coming into a demand area. I'm going to show you on the chart what that looks like right now. But both Popcat and Fog ended up getting listed on major exchanges like Bybit. And if you scroll down, firstly, well, before we scroll down, let's just have a look at the total market cap is only 30 million, right? These other ones went to 750 and over $1 billion market cap. And if we go to the bottom over here, well, this is only currently listed on L-Bank MEXI in terms of centralized exchanges, right? And we know the masses tend to come in on those centralized exchanges. And the big ones that we'll be looking for is, things like Bybit listings, right? If we look at the chart, this is what the chart looks like, right? So it's had its initial move up. It's coming back into the demand zone. And this is personally where I plan to load up a little bit of this coin over here. If you want to get really, really precise with the entry, it would be that for me personally, which means you can wait for a little bit further down. But I prefer to take a little bit of a position just before that in the event, right? Let's just quickly grab, where is our drawing tool on this thing? I never use this platform over here, but I'd prefer to take a little bit more of a position. I don't know where the drawing tool is on this one. Maybe with this. No, we can't. Okay, guys, that's let me try one more time. Why is there no drawing tool on here? Okay, it's not the same as TradingView. Look, I would prefer to take a bit of a position in case it does start to turn. But the higher time frame, if you want to know the high time frame trajectory and the route to, you know, $1 billion market cap, I'm viewing this from the very, very, very lows, the initial launch, as a wave 1. This, I believe, will catch wave 2 support around 1639, right? In terms of an Elliott wave count. Wave 3 is always longer and stronger than the first wave, which means it should be more aggressive towards the upside and much sharper. And that's the move that I want to catch, right? So there it is. And to the downside, you probably come back to backtest almost close to where wave 1 was for support to complete wave 3 to 4. And then you guys know it, you lead into wave 5, which is the final peak at probably close to $1 billion, right? So that's what I'm looking at over there. This is one that I've got on my radar and watch list. Feel free if you guys do want to check it out. If you want a high beta play or a bit of a gamble, this is one that I'd look at. It's not necessarily a gamble, right? I had a look at their website. It looks pretty good. You can see over here, everything is listed over here. I saw they have this sausage generator, right? So pretty good art, very similar to PopCat and especially Fog, right? In terms of the artwork, and you can actually get a little bit of an artwork done over here. If you want a little profile, you can go through over there. That's pretty cool. Okay, cool. What else? What else have we got, guys? So the ETH plan remains the same, right? I'm just going to talk a little bit about ETH one more time because this is being drawn out very, very far in advance, right? And I spoke with the whale room and about why this is very, very similar to actually what Bitcoin was doing at the bottom of the bear market after the FTX lows, because Bitcoin was also in a falling wedge, right? Bitcoin was in a falling wedge like this, and then it broke out, and then you had a big move up, right? And then this is essentially what I would classify as very similar to the USDC.D peg, where Bitcoin put in its first major high low, and then it started to hold up, probably retest. So I'm thinking it's going to run to about $3,300, and then it's going to backtest into about 2.7, hold that as support, accumulate for a little bit longer, and then you're going to get your next major move up, right? So my plan of action is I'm still holding the spot that we've had from way back. I'm going to hold that to about 3.3. I'm going to shave some profits, and then I'm going to rebuy that back on spot when it comes back into this area of interest. And then I'm going to margin long some of that ETH for the next leg up to about 4,000. And then I'll reevaluate. Maybe I'll close that position and just hold the spot ETH in case it actually breaks out of this and marks up to much, much, much higher prices. So essentially that is the plan of action in terms of what I'm looking at. Let me know in the comments if there's any other altcoin requests, anything else that you want to have a look at. You know, we got a whole bunch of trade opportunities over there. These are still active, right? Still very, very active. You're experiencing a little bit of drawdown, which means either if you haven't entered already because you had cold feet, you can enter now, or you can average down. But that's XRP, looking at a move back to the top of the trading range. Same thing over here. Solana, it's a little bit lower than yesterday, looking for a move back to the top of the trading range and possibly even above. We have Sui. This one's looking really good. I think that this is probably one of the best opportunities that you can go for. This one's still in profit over here on Sui, and we're looking also for a move back to all-time highs. And beyond that, we have Nia over here as another trade opportunity, still already in profit over there, looking for a trade. Not necessarily to all-time highs yet. The first area of interest is just around that $6. We have Aptos holding the range low over here. As long as it can defend this range low, a possible move up for 100% move looks likely. And then we have Sui, right? Sui could have put in a little bit of a swing failure pattern over here. Yesterday's low. I think invalidate under yesterday's low. If you're long on this, invalidate under yesterday's low. This could trade all the way back up to the highs as well. So there's a couple of opportunities. If you do want to trade those, again, guys, there's a link in the description below. You're starting to get the break over here. So I might start to allocate a bit more into this ETH trade, and we'll see if we get the ascending triangle breakout, right? So the what I'd be looking for, and let's just clean this up a bit so it's not so messy, but you know what you're looking for over here is you really want to see this hold as support. If this can hold nicely as support, that will be the high low that will drive this up possibly as high as 20%. So we're looking for essentially a continuation off of what we previously saw. And I'll go into the daily to better show it, right? We're looking for continuation of this leg up. This move over here that happened from there to there. Let's just grab that tool again. From here to here, we're looking for essentially a repeat of that, right? Which is a pretty sizable move. Conservative target, 3,300, which is your yearly open. You may smash beyond that. All you need to do is protect your capital right now, right? Don't over leverage. Don't get liquidated. I really hope that James does not get liquidated. You know, he's pulling back a little bit over here in terms of his initials, right? Nowhere near getting back to 82 million. But earlier this morning, it was 3 million down, right? So he's pulling back a little bit. Now he's only 1.5 million down. Imagine you had 80 million to gamble with, right? So protect your capital. Stay safe from hackers, scammers, all the rest of it. I actually got this. Let me just quickly showcase this. Give me 1 second, guys. I have to show this image to you because it is actually pretty concerning. Let's just see if I can open this in Google over here. There we go. Let's just open that in Google, right? So in Whale School over here, if you have a look, within Whale School, this is a Whale School Telegram. You don't need to go there. Nothing goes on there other than scammers, right? They're trying to drain your wallet. Look, claim Trump on Solana, exclusive airdrop, claim Trump on Solana. These are all scammers. Don't ever give your money to anyone. Don't click on any of these funny links. And if you are ever going to click on links, please go through to the link in the description and get yourself at least a NordVPN, right? Click on that. You get 74% off using that specific link on a 2-year plan. It's there to help you, less than the price of a cup of coffee today. And that will protect your IP address, right? Malware protection, remote file access, dark web monitoring, hide your IP address so they don't know where you live. Because there's also the physical crime that's a real thing within crypto. And then on top of that, if you click these links, it will actually come up with a pop-up notification that would say, this link looks dangerous. I highly advise that you double check the link and don't continue. It will say something like that with VPN if you click it. Please be very careful out there, guys. So the links are in the description below. And that is it. That is it from me, right? For the rest of you, make sure you jump into Whale Room, also linked below. If you want all the alpha with the traders and live trading, we'll be doing another session later on today in a couple of hours' time. So I'll see you all on the next one. I hope you have a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Cheers for now. Wait, one more thing. Tomorrow, I am on the Crypto Live channel, right? Remember, I'm on the Crypto Live channel. See you guys